have to have 7 negative tests. Is that right, Rachel?
7
negative tests.
7 negative tests on the way in, and he'll be quarantining for 4 days in the bubble once he gets here, and then they will let him rerun the Lakers practice.
He's a key piece for this team. Caruso filling in nicely right now with the layup. There's the fact that Caruso for Oklahoma City played for the OKC Blue and was released later. Who thought about going to Europe. Had a great performance in the Las Vegas Summer League a couple of years ago and was signed to a deal. He's been a part of this roster ever since Chris Paul just playing his own pace.
That's just signature Chris Paul right there.
He had little Chris watching the game virtually behind the bench.
All right. So if anyone's actually watching right now, we're gonna take a couple minutes. No one's watching. Okay. Why is this so off? Last time it was better. How do I make it better? Oh, nice. Okay. Oh, that's way better. Okay, cool. So it's not even 5 yet. So if you're watching right now, we're going to give a couple minutes to let people filter in. So get comfy. Okay. Hopefully I can read my own writing too. That'll be nice. Dan, what did you just do? Dan, what did you just do? Yeah, they just cannot buy a freaking shot. They got a rebound. Thank goodness. All right, I'll take that. All right. Boom, 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 boom. How did they just call fouls every single time? How we feeling out there in YouTube land, YouTube land, YouTube land? If you're just joining, we're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join. Jesse, if you're joining, will you chat in the chat and let me know that you're here. So I'll wait to answer your question specifically. Freaking warm in here, man. A fan is born. So yeah, I got a whole laundry list of questions from everyone. I just wrote them down from the WhatsApp chat, all that jazz. So if anybody has any other questions, oh hey Jesse, you're here! Yay! Sweet. We'll just wait a couple more minutes, and then we'll just. I'll start with your question then, Jesse. I hope you don't mind that I'm going to read it out loud. Hope you don't mind. Don't read my question. Huh? Don't know what that is. Hello from Ohio. Nice. I know, isn't that's so funny. I love this stuff. I actually really enjoy doing this. It's such a cool way to like connect people. You literally do this from all over the world. And I actually really enjoy babbling. So it's fun that I get to kind of answer some questions and all that jazz. For the record, I did not do any actual research for any of these questions. All of them I feel pretty confident answering myself. So if you guys want to fact check me, you're more than welcome to. In fact, I actually would encourage it because that's even more fun debate. So if anybody hears something that's like, dude, that doesn't sound right, feel free to question me. I am all about debate. Oh, finally I wore out the kittens. Okay. 5:05. I figure we can get started. Oh, so like I said, I'll start with Jesse's question. Sorry, Jesse. I'm going to read the whole thing. Okay. So I always wanted to say Jesse writes in. Jesse writes in and says, I've been tracking my calories and macros. So this is a nutrition kind of muscle gain, fat loss question, which is a lot of the questions, or a decent amount of the questions that we got today. So I've been tracking my calories and macronutrients, and I'm finding naturally ate around 1,200 calories, which I know is super, super low. I mean, depends on, yeah. I mean, that could be, but it also could be really, really high. It just depends on. For you, yes. I'm going to try to be as specific as I can. I think last time I was a little general in my answers, so I'll try to be as specific to whoever's asking the questions. So yes, for you, Jesse, I would say for your goals and your general weightlifting and exercise, 1,200 calories a day is probably too low. I don't know about super, super low, but it's low. Can't figure out how to eat more just because I get so full. So this is another common theme that we do have a couple of questions regarding to, which is fasting schedules, eating 1 meal, 2 meals, 3 meals. Do I get enough calories in? I shared a lot of my own personal struggle with that and kind of what I did to change my fasting schedule and all that stuff. Low calories. So Jesse says that the low calories feels like she's keeping her from making progress. I'm guessing you're talking about strength progress. If you can make a comment in the chat, I think you're talking about strength progress or fat loss progress or both. So yeah, I mean, here's the thing about, and I'll just kind of make a general statement about calories, nutrition, all that kind of stuff when it comes to health and wellness. A lot of people, and I mean, you can find some YouTube channels out there. I've literally watched them that they're like, whiteboards with all these like scientific thermodynamic equations and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, strength progress. Okay. I really get annoyed when I see stuff like that because they're not wrong, but they're wrong. And what I mean by that is everyone is different. The human physiology is not a black box. So it's not a closed system that can just be like observed on this one side and input equals output and all these calories in equals calories out. It's not like that. I will debate that until the cows come home. There's so many hormonal, physiological things. Sleep is a part of it. Exercise is a part of it. Vitamin D is a part of it. Cortisol is a part of it. And there's so many hormonal, environmental, genetic components that go into every single day of your life that for someone to say like, yeah, 1,200 calories and you'll be fine. That's not how it works. Okay. So that being said, I feel confident. And again, all these people who are making all these videos with the whiteboards and the quadratic formulas and shit, they're way smarter than I am. But I completely disagree with them that treating the body like a math problem is just wrong. So what I would say to this question is really plug and play for you. And you bring up a really interesting point. It's hard. Sometimes it can be really, really hard to actually eat because you get like, if you're eating or you're fasting rather for like 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, your stomach does get smaller. So then you eat and your digestive enzymes kind of shut off. So like your body gets used to not eating. And then all of a sudden you shove a bunch of food in your face and your body's like, what the heck? So it, and it's like absorption can be an issue. So like what you eat is not what's absorbed, which is another humongous thing that all these calorie in, calorie out people miss. So, yeah, I mean, plug and play for you. Like, I mean, quite honestly, shakes or smoothies, liquid calories is the easiest way to increase your total caloric intake. One kind of taboo thing to say too is also increase your fat intake, like because it actually has more calories per gram, and usually that's seen as a bad thing. But if you're having like, a decent amount of high quality fats in your diet, fatty fish, avocados, even meats, bacon and stuff like that. If you're having fat, that can help, increase your calories without shoving a bunch of food in your stomach. The other thing too is that a lot of times people try to be really good and like, they want to eat high quality foods and eat vegetables. Well, let's say you just fasted for 12 or 14 hours or even 10 hours, and then you shove in a bunch of broccoli and chicken. One, that's a really low calorie meal. Two, that cruciferous vegetable is going to have a really hard time in your system. Yes, it is true. Vegetables are actually really hard to digest. Meats and things like that are not. So, I mean, high protein diets, yes, can be hard to digest, but like more often than not, cruciferous vegetables specifically, people try to do it as a healthy thing. However, if you've been fasting and then all of a sudden trying to eat a bunch of vegetables, it can be really hard in your system. All that cellulose and all those compounds and micronutrients that go into that. So, and again, you just shoved in a bunch of volume, but you only got 400 calories. Well, good luck, right? And then you're full for like 3 hours. So adding a high quality, and I talked about this last time, adding a high quality protein shake with some healthy fats in it in and of itself. So maybe almond butter or peanut butter, some like flax milk instead of like almond milk. So you can kind of get a calorically dense shake in there with a high quality protein and make it taste good. Maybe put a little bit of fruit in there for some. You don't want to do too much just because it's like pulverized liquid fructose, which isn't necessarily great for your body. And then the other thing for the strength gains, I mean, yeah, like you do need to be eating a decent amount of protein. So I guess that's the other thing I would say too, is like, I don't know what your meal frequency is, Jesse, but like if you're eating like say 2 meals a day, you definitely want to make it at least 30 grams of protein, 30 to 40 grams of protein. And you ideally want it from different sources. So you want some fast digesting, like in the form of protein shakes, some slower digesting in the form of like, eggs or chicken or beef or maybe even yogurt, the even slower casein protein than that. You basically want this like steady stream of protein kind of going throughout the day. So yeah, I mean, like something I personally have had to deal with is like, I was actually like going to this point where I was fasting for like 18 hours a day and like having like a 6-hour window of like trying to fit in a bunch of food. It was totally wrecking my digestion, my progress, my results. It was having like some really detrimental like effects. So I had to completely change my fasting schedule. I actually went back to eating breakfast. I still get anywhere from like a 12 to 14 hour fast a day, but that's like, I'm trying not to because for me, it's like so easy to fast. So, but yeah, I mean, so again, it really could be as simple as adding one extra protein shake a day. So like doing exactly what you're doing right now and just adding in a 20 to 30 gram protein shake, high quality protein shake today. That could be the difference between you like recovering better. And then on top of that, as we've talked before, Jesse, is going to be the program itself. So, doing accessory movements, making like strides, not always just going for maxes, not always just hitting the same 3 movements, like making sure that you're doing other things to facilitate the whole structure so that when you go back to deadlifting or go back to squatting, you're being able to hit those maxes and things like that. And the other thing is too, like, I mean, like whether your max is like 100 burpees per time or a 1 rep max squat, your body only has so much, obviously they're different energy systems, but your body only has, and your mind and your nervous system really only has so much in it throughout. A lot of what we talked about last time was the 24-hour cycle, also just the like weekly cycle, monthly cycle. I mean, like you only have so much of that like oomph you can put into it. So making sure that you're like being very strategic as to how you're going after heavy days basically is really key too. So, and again, plug and play with that. If you're doing 3 heavy days a week right now, or whatever it is, then maybe try less, maybe try more, maybe try 4 medium heavy days, or excuse me, like 3 medium weight days and 1 heavy. So like not saying that you can't touch weights, obviously, but like maybe not doing such a frequency in terms of heavy stuff. So hopefully that answered your question. If it didn't, or if you need more clarification, this goes for everybody, please let me know on the side. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to, I guess the last thing I'll say about that is literally like, and a lot of this goes for all these questions, is that one little thing could make the difference in the world. So don't change everything. Start with something small that you think you can do and just check it out for a week or 2, probably 2 weeks, and just see how it feels. See what happens to your body composition, your energy, your strength, your energy in the gym, all those kind of things. So just change something and just see how it goes. You don't have to treat it like a science experiment, but basically at the end of the day, don't change everything just because it's not working, but change something because it's not working. And that's the other thing too, is like, if it's not working for you, even if you know what's right, just change something and see what the worst that's going to happen is you might fall off a little bit here, or you might gain a little weight, or you might lose a little weight. I mean, just like, just plug and play with something, and some people like can find really great results just by changing one thing. It's maybe a really dumb question, but I'm genuinely curious. Is strength gain possible? Ooh, that's a really good question, actually. I'll get to that in a second. That's a really good question. Okay, so let's just go back to the square one with Todd and Robin's question. So they were talking about muscle mass, bone density in seniors. That was a big thing for them. So muscle mass is, so basically past the age of 30, especially for men, really for men and women. I mean, women, it's already tough to build muscle because of the whole hormone balance with estrogen and testosterone. But like, really for men, it becomes more and more difficult, especially for majority of men, because their testosterone gets lower basically, and their estrogen actually increases. So then you've got postmenopausal, which is a whole nother realm. Okay, so I think the biggest thing to focus on is, and I always kind of say this, which is reflecting the best version of you. So how to reflect the best version? Like, unless you're like going to be a senior bodybuilder, the way to build muscle is just really simple. I mean, unless you're, I think Todd sent out an article of like people who like literally cannot build muscle or something like that. Okay, unless you're one of those people, the main way is to do some sort of resistance training and then make sure you're getting enough protein. And you can do this vegan or vegetarian too. It's not just shove a steak down your throat. But generally it's going to be making sure that you're getting enough protein, enough water, enough rest, enough sleep, and then doing some resistance training. I think for you guys specifically, the workouts that we do are great. They're not necessarily going to pack on the pounds of muscle per se, and they're not necessarily going to like get you so toned that like, or even improve one area of your body. Like, oh my God, my chest is amazing. We're not doing like, 50 push-ups a day, like that kind of thing. Like a concentrated push-up program would get you more defined pecs, bigger pecs, broader shoulders, and all the bigger biceps and triceps. We're not doing that. We're doing like a holistic fitness program. So if you want to see increases in a specific part of your body, it's going to be dedicating some more time to that and basically doing some strength programming on your own, or we can do a one-on-one strength programming as well. That's obviously going to take some weights, and it's going to be in addition to, the workouts that we do already. So like when I do certain things with somebody else who's also, say Tammy, for example, who's also doing the at-home workouts, we're kind of making sure that they're not like overlapping to the point where it's going to like completely destroy her. Okay. But muscle mass in general is lift weights, and quite honestly, doing the good old fashioned 4 sets of 12, 3 sets of 15, like that hypertrophy kind of muscle gaining, you're breaking down, the muscle fibers, and then you're building them back up. And that takes time, protein, and a little bit of genetics. So it just depends on what version of you is in there. Not everyone's made to look a certain way. So, some people traditionally will have bigger stomachs, bigger waistlines. Some people will, we all know this endomorph, ectomorph kind of body shapes goes into it as well. I think mesomorph is the other one. But some people just literally I've met people who touch a weight and they just get biceps to here. I've met people who do one squat at 50 pounds and all of a sudden they have quadzillas. I mean, some people, so genetics do play a part in it. So you have to be aware of that. But again, you can't really do anything about that. So I think obsessing about, and I don't think anybody in this group's obsessing about muscle mass or getting shredded, freaking some bodybuilder or something. How to reflect the best version of you is just to do weights. But I think if you're looking to do specifically man, I really don't my chest feels undersized or my legs feel undersized and I want to build some more mass around my legs, or you're going to have to do a concentrated, consistent program that has to do with upper body movements and pretty honestly, weights, not just burpees. Okay. The bone density part of it, same thing, especially for people over the age of, I'd say 45, hell, maybe even 40, just resistance training 2 to 3 days a week, of an hour, can really make all the difference in the world. Ken brings up another question too, which I'll get to later, which is getting, past 70, how does that look? But really for anybody, even kids, bone density can be very much impacted by weight training. And then the nutrition side of it, again, absorption plays an issue. So people are drink milk or eat beans or whatever, all these things that'll help bone density. Again, that's all different for every different person. So, but resistance training seems to be the one key thing that everyone of all ages can do to increase bone density. The unfortunate thing about bones is that the remodeling process takes, I think it's 7 years. So you're not going to improve it overnight is my point. Consistent loading of the body though, even an air squat, a push-up, a pull-up, some swings, loading of the body will help your bones get stronger and denser. Okay. So yes, resistance training is the number one key thing. In fact, if you did an intense workout again, and I never saw you again, but I could, impart some wisdom, it would be do 3 days a week, 1 hour of relatively intense weight training. Okay. That's going to help your bone density. So Jesse, I'll answer your question really quick. Calorie deficit and muscle gain, strength gain. No, it's not possible, to be quite honest. It's possible for some people, but it's not probable because your body's prioritization of calories and energy will absolutely go into survival and basic functions before it'll go into gaining strength. And because strength, quite honestly, is, yes, it's absolutely necessary from a primal standpoint, right? Running away from the cheetah or whatever it is. But no, its priority is going to go into, and this is the thing that just always pisses me off when people talk about fat is bad. Fat is one of the most crucial, fat and protein are some of the most crucial things for your body's basic function, protective layers of, cellular health, all those kind of things. Fat and protein are absolutely crucial in those. So no, in fact, training and deficits, if you've ever known an actual bodybuilder, I'm sure you have, they're a wreck. Those people are an absolute wreck and they look strong. I've met some of the weakest people in my life. I would put anybody in this group, not that you guys are weak, you guys are super strong. I would put anybody in this group up against some of the people that I've trained who are bodybuilders because they look fantastic. They are completely emaciated in terms of they have no body fat. So they look really strong and they look really buff. A lot of that's not functional strength. A lot of it is just absolutely their genetics, and they're just, a lot of it's drugs too. So not that you're asking about bodybuilders, but I'm just saying in general, most people who, this is why the best powerlifters in the world are generally overweight because not only do they have to pack in the calories to sustain all that training, but they have to have that mass on them. You actually this is why it's impressive for people to do 2 times body weight deadlifts, because if you are 100 pounds and you can lift 200 pounds off the ground, that's amazing, right? Very difficult to do the lower you go in weight and the less mass you have on you, and the less calories you have, the less opportunity you have to add any kind of mass. And I mean, there's a smart way to do it. You don't want to just start shoving in like McDonald's and stuff, but like we said earlier, you definitely, this is the plug and play thing. If you're not feeling like you have strength in the gym, you're not making like improvement on your numbers, I would definitely look at your training schedule, and I would definitely look at, your macronutrient profiling. And then also, meal frequency could be a thing too. For people who work out on a regular basis, I think I talked about this last time with Todd, doing only one meal a day can be pretty harsh for your recovery. So last time our entire subject was recovery. Okay. Let's see. Robin has a ton of questions, so I definitely want to get to Robin's. She talked. One of the things she kind of touched on was skin elasticity and muscle formation. So we already talked about muscle formation. I mean, muscle formation, muscles basically swell up and get bigger as you break down muscle fibers and those proteins and then build them back up. If you're not getting enough time, rest, and energy to build them back up, they won't build back up. And if you're not doing the right movements, again, if you want to see like bigger arms and like, doing arm stuff might definitely get you certain bicep peaks and things like that, but it's not going to train the arm as a whole. So that's why we do functional movements. But again, if you wanted to see more improvement in one area or the other, you might have to do some extra training on top of that. It doesn't necessarily have to be, and actually, to be honest, it could be even in the context that we're doing every day. So maybe the next time we do an upper body movement, you make sure to do the strictest form and screw trying to go for the max amount of reps. Just say, I'm going to do full on body weight push-ups today and really like work on that strength piece. You can do that. And so making that a priority. If you want to see a certain part of your body change, you do kind of have to put some extra time into it and either prioritize it during a workout or maybe come to me, ask for some more kind of accessory things you can be doing on the side. It doesn't necessarily mean your life has to be like working out all the time. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to add a bunch of volume. It just means we have to focus in a little bit more. Skin elasticity, that definitely does go down when you get older. I mean, the honest truth is, especially with sun exposure, it definitely, will make your skin saggier in some places. It just also depends on, how you've experienced life. Some people also genetically have like really loose underarm skin. Women who have had children have it, in their kind of lower stomach area. I mean, it's really common, cellulite and things like that and loose skin. There's a couple of dietary things. So again, healthy polyunsaturated and even saturated, even saturated fats can be very good for skin health. B vitamins and things like that. So like biotin and all these things that people take for hair, skin, and nails, that does do things. But in terms of like actually tightening up your skin, no. Unfortunately, like one of the realities of people who lose like considerable amounts of weight, and nobody here is in that category to where they've lost like 100 pounds in like a year, but I've trained people like that, and it does leave a very significant skin issue, and that does have to be treated medically. And you can do that in small batches. You can do that even as somebody who just has a problem area. You can actually do that through surgery. So not that I'm suggesting that, and I don't get any pleasure out of saying that, but that is just the reality. So other than basic dietary things, making sure you're getting enough healthy fats, avoiding excessive sun exposure, making sure you're moisturizing your skin and all those kind of things. In terms of tightening though, like let's say you do have a problem area and it is in your arm, that could be another thing that we could focus in some specific upper body areas to tighten up those muscles a little bit more and maybe define them more. Sometimes just definition can help. It doesn't actually tighten, but it can help just make it look better. So sometimes quite literally you can kind of trick the optics to looking better. Okay, so another one from Robin, most common injuries for seniors. Great question. I mean, obviously the number one thing is going to be back. So anything joint related too, it's going to be knees, elbows, and back are like the three main things. And this kind of goes into your like, what are some really good exercises for the back and the core? I mean, everything we're doing in these functional movement, workouts is core. Quite honestly, a burpee is core, a squat is core, a deadlift is core. So every single time you're doing an exercise, how you engage your core and how you pay attention, which is a lot of the reason we've been doing these kind of lumbar squeezes and doing the dead bug movement that we did today, the variation that we did today, all those things are helping you get in touch with how to actually engage your core. And that's going to be one of the biggest things. So prevention here is everything. Okay. So, more often than not, a lot of this is just getting into position, which everyone here knows how to do. But sometimes when we're doing for time or for reps, we kind of lose those and we start to just go, how do I, your brain will go to default, which is let's just talk about snatches. How do I get the weight from ground to overhead? And you'll kind of lose that. So you have to constantly, literally every single time I snatch, even though I've done them thousands of times, every single time I'm thinking about boom, 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 boom. Like I'm thinking about arm nice and long, tension in my glutes and hamstrings, good lumbar curve, full extension at the top. In that it is a muscle memory thing, but every single time you let yourself go out of that muscle memory during a workout, your body remembers the wrong thing. So the main thing for everybody in this group is going to be prevention is going to be the first thing. Okay. So when I tell you to do something a certain way, do it, or ask me a question for clarification. That's totally fine. So doing the exercise properly, first and foremost, is going to be huge. And then 2 is going to be inflammation of the joints. That is just another thing that comes with old age. It's everyone, myself included, we all have it at this point. Even some people, in their 20s and 30s, have it as well. So inflammation is a key thing. It can be, and oftentimes is diet related. It can be sleep related. It can be exposure to exercise related. It can also be how you did the exercise itself. So if you're using your arm incorrectly during a snatch, right? And we're going out here, or we're being too loose with the elbow and we're snapping and hyperextending every time. Guess what? All of a sudden you're going to wake up the next day and have some golfer's elbow or some tennis elbow. And so you're going to kind of feel like, oh man, old age, or oh man, no, maybe you did the exercise wrong in the first place. So again, keeping the laser focus on proper form and in how to mentally and physically engage your body every single time you're doing a workout, even when you're in the zone of throwing up the weight or doing a bunch of burpees, even burpees, right? It's not just shove yourself down to the floor and pop up. It's a very, symphony of different movements and things happening. Every single rep of every single movement is a chance to do it right. So do it right and prevent yourself from getting injured. Okay. And for those injuries, I definitely do not recommend, unless you're having trouble sleeping, I do not ever recommend NSAIDs or over-the-counter pain relievers. People, I think, still abuse those even though I bring this up to people and they're like, I never take those. I'm like, BS. People take them way too much. And if you're having problems sleeping, then yes, take it in the very acute sense, just get through the night and then wake up the next day and be like, holy crap, I got to fix this. And then there are some exercises you can do. And there's another question in that later, but fix the problem. Don't just deal with the pain. Not saying you'll be pain-free. Sometimes injuries happen, especially as we get older. I was just talking to John about this today. When you get older, sometimes injuries don't heal. Sometimes the body just kind of keeps score and things just kind of keep stacking up. And it does kind of be, other than surgical intervention, which is not always appropriate, by the way. I think that's another thing that people just do. They're like, I'm going to go to the doctor and just get it, fixed. That's not always the case. So sometimes it is, but like in Tammy's case, obviously, with all of her things that she's had in the last couple of years, that's definitely a totally different episode. But I think people just kind of think oh, my shoulder hurts, I should go to the doctor. It's there's so many things we can do. And I wish you guys would ask me more or engage me either one-off through the phone or during a workout or whatever. I'm more than happy and willing and wanting to deal with those things. You're not just there to deal with it on your own, and I'm your punish guy, and you just have to deal with all the rest. Okay. I'll do one more from Robin, and then I'll come back to Robin, of course, because she has a bunch, but I want to make sure everyone gets a question. Okay. So getting hungry before the end of a fast. So I don't know what your fasting schedule is. Robin, if you or Todd can type it into the thing, that would be helpful. This is my typing. Boop, 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 boop. I'll answer your other question. Is fasting optimal for seniors? Maybe. It just depends on who you are and your activity level. Wow, 8 viewers right now. What's up, y'all? We're huge on the internet. Let's go. I'm just kidding. So yeah, it really just depends on who you are, your intensity of exercise, your amount of exercise. If you feel lethargic all the time, you feel like you don't have energy, you're having issues recovering. So going back to the conversation we had last time, if you're not being able to recover, it could be a calorie or macronutrient issue. Fasting can absolutely be beneficial though, especially for older people, because quite honestly, it's been shown to have a lot of positive benefits for basically, you know, regenerating cells. So it absolutely can have tons of like longevity benefits and anti-cancer benefits. You know, no, it's not going to cure cancer, but I mean, like it can basically give your body time to heal itself and repair itself. So it can be really beneficial. Okay, so Robin does a 12-hour fast. So yeah, I mean, it also depends. Like, so getting hungry is an interesting topic in and of itself. Meaning, there's a lot of different reasons you can get hungry. So if you're constantly like getting to like say the 10-hour mark or 11-hour mark, and you're like getting really hungry, that honestly could just be the way your body is anticipating the end of your fast. That can be a part of it. So you train your body. Yeah, Todd, I think you're fasting way too much, to be quite honest. Yeah, I mean, the way you train your body, basically. Okay, so, and your body knows, so like it will actually get hungry, even if it's not a real signal, it'll actually feel like it's a real signal from like the ghrelin in your stomach or the leptin in your brain. You can train those things. You can also train them to go down. So like for me personally, I was going to like 18, 20-hour fast, not even feeling hungry at all and be like, I guess I got to eat now. It was all my body being trained, but it was not being beneficial. So you got to, again, plug and play. Like I had to change my fasting schedule. So some days I fast 16 hours, some days I fast only 10 hours. So I'm just, you know, it's kind of what my schedule is. Because at the end of the day, the whole fasting thing is supposed to be convenient. But if it's inconveniencing you in some way, shape, or form, whether you feel like you have no energy, you feel like you're always hungry, that could be an issue. Or feeling hungry can also be, so again, it could be your body being trained. It could be you're hungry and not getting enough calories in. It could be the last thing you ate might have done something funky. So if you're eating like, you know, I don't know, a popsicle before bed versus like a spoonful of almond butter, that can make a huge difference. Okay. It can also be like what your hormone, well, for postmenopausal, it's not going to be so much of an issue, but it can be hormonal for some people. You know, if you're having, I mean, you still have cortisol. So like you could have excessive cortisol in the morning. Regulating insulin too. Yeah, so that's my point. So like if your blood sugar is out of whack before you go to bed, or you're having blood sugar issues in the morning, that could really throw you off. So regulating your blood sugar spikes and valleys is also a part of fasting. So it's really hard for people who like eat 6 times a day. Just like let's take a traditional person who wakes it right up, eats something, and then has a bunch of snacks all day, and has lunch, and has snacks, and then has dinner, and then has snacks. Somebody who's eating like 6 times a day, 6-7 times a day, taking those people and then putting them on a fast, it feels like torture for them because they're so used to constantly getting food. So again, you might just plug and play it, and you might be able to just put a couple of eggs or a couple of pieces of toast or something in your mouth and feel totally fine for like more time. You know, it really just depends. I wouldn't recommend just eating toast. I would always recommend eating something a little more protein filled, but like, yeah, so no, it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, fasting does, you know, it does focus the body, but it does it underneath like a really stressful state. So fasting is stressful for the body. So even though you feel more energized, you feel more focused, it can be, you know, the negative consequences will come on the back end. So it's not during the fast. For most people during the fast, once they're used to the fast, it's like, oh, I feel great. But sometimes the negative benefits can come on the other side. And then for people who are struggling with fasting in general, I mean, I think it can be very beneficial for older people, especially because most older people do not need to eat a bunch of food. Your caloric needs go way down. So having one solid, you know, grand meal a day can be all you need. It really just depends. Again, if you're trying to build muscle and bone density and have energy to do all the workouts that we're doing, yeah, you might need to change your fasting schedule and things like that. So, you know, kind of plug and play and see what happens. But fasting can be very beneficial for older people. It's not just a fad diet to like help you lose weight. It's not. There's actually, to be honest, the only proven things about fasting are the longevity things. Proven in a sense of like, so that won't necessarily hit scientific muster, but like proven in a sense that like there's way more studies around it. There's way more like evidence leaning towards those areas. So I guess I'll back that up a little bit. So there's leaning towards the longevity benefits versus any of the ones that have to do with fat loss. Okay. So yeah, if you're getting hungry before the end of the fast, I mean, that's not abnormal. In fact, most people who do fasting hit some sort of wall, usually about 3 to 4, maybe even 5 hours before the end of their fast, and then they just get through it. Wow, shoes in the morning, Chris. Actually, dude, I'm not gonna lie, that would actually be a phenomenal way to get some protein in. Jeez Louise. All right, let's address Tammy's real quick. Hormones and fat loss. Yes, that's obviously a really broad topic, but I actually have a really simple answer to this, which is yes, hormones affect fat loss and muscle gain. And sleep and recovery absolutely affect them. I think the biggest thing for me is, again, when we talk about this plug and play kind of check and adjust type thing, everyone's different. And so if you're constantly waking up feeling tired, you're constantly waking up feeling lethargic, something's wrong. So you don't need a strap or a band to tell you that. So like sometimes just adjusting your window of sleep can make all the difference in the world. Sometimes 10:30 to 6 is better than 10 to 5:30. Sometimes it's the opposite. So like some people really thrive in different areas of sleep. Some people really thrive from 11 to 6, especially as you get older, you need less sleep. So like you really need some sleep, but you don't necessarily need 9 hours like you did when you were 25 or even 15 or whatever. So like, you know, it tends to be when they say 7 to 9 hours of sleep, you tend to get closer to the 7. So you might be getting too much sleep. You might be getting too little. It might be at the wrong time. Your hormone balance will absolutely have to do with fat loss and muscle gain. But again, you know, if you're postmenopausal, that's a whole nother issue. You can obviously talk to your doctor about potentially doing some sort of hormone therapy replacement. That goes for guys too, as they age and lower testosterone. Low T medications at this point in time are like freaking aspirin. I mean, you can go to your doctor, they'll do a testosterone test. And if you're lower than, you know, whatever they say, you can get testosterone underarm treatments and all that stuff pretty easily. The only thing with testosterone and hormones, when they get out of balance, so let's say you actually increase testosterone, but you're supposed to be naturally declining, it actually can promote things like cancer and stuff like that. So unfortunately, that can be problematic. Yeah, I mean, again, and so here's the thing too with the whole fasting. The whole fasting thing, guys, is really comes down to, and this is what I had to kind of come to grips with, it's the everyday aspect of it, okay? So sometimes if you're like eating from 2 to 6, and then the next day you do it again, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. It's not going to crush your goals or whatever. If you're doing that 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, you know, 12 months a year, you're going to run into some issues, okay? Like, unless you're like absolutely like a genius at like, you know, crushing your goals. And a lot of times when we talk about like keto diets, high protein, high fat diets, low carb diets, these are for people who aren't working out all the time. So if you're working out all the time and you're finding yourself hitting the wall, check something out and really try it. And it was actually really hard for me to like look at my fasting schedule, because I was like, well, fasting's great for you. It can't be the problem. It has to be something else. And quite honestly, I had to take a really hard look at that and my exercise intensity and frequency, and really take a hard look in the mirror and say, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore. I was having some issues that I've kind of shared with you guys, just some kind of internal, like, you know, just issues with like my vestibular system, and my energy levels were just crashing at the end of the day. Like it would hit 4 p.m. and I would just be a wreck. Like I couldn't even do this like talk right now. I'd be so out of it. So I had to change things. So, you know, like some people thrive off of fasting and get shredded and build muscle and feel great. And some people don't, but more often than not, if you're exercising as frequently as everyone on this call does, you don't need to be doing a super low carb. Like, yes, I would still restrict carbohydrates to a certain point, but again, you might be great at 200 carbs a day. You might be great at 150 or 100 or 3. Just, it's all about what works for you. Okay. And if it's not working, be honest with yourself and say, this isn't working. I'm willing and ready to try something new. So, okay, let's see. I would say one of the biggest hormone thing, and this is one of the biggest things with fasting is cortisol. Okay, so when you wake up, cortisol is high. And unfortunately, things like fasting, they don't necessarily lower them, but neither does a bowl of Trick cereal. Okay, so, a high fat, high protein diet, or at least breakfast can help. Hi, honey. Okay, this is why I don't need you to be here. Can help kind of calm your body down and actually give your body some energy and kind of, level off your cortisol. So I think for me personally, I was having a lot of coffee on a fast and then doing intense exercise on a fast, it was kind of jacking up my cortisol. So that was actually not a good thing. So I would really focus on cortisol because, again, without getting like an actual like hormone profile done, at the doctor, we are all way high on cortisol. Every time you get in the car and somebody almost hits your car, or you have to flip some guy off in the lane, whatever, your cortisol goes up. Every time you get that phone call, you see something on Facebook, your cortisol goes up. Okay, so we are all very high cortisol people in general. So I can definitely tell you that you're high on cortisol. So not like high though. That's not the fun kind of high. So doing things to kind of mitigate that can be really good. Meditation, the breathing exercises that we've all talked about can be really, really good. Possibly eating a nice, breakfast of eggs and, or just basically whatever high protein. It could be eggs and beans for I don't know, like whatever. It could be a bean salad. It could be vegetarian. It's fine. But yeah, so basically my hair is just getting worse and worse and worse as we go. Yeah, so it could be cortisol could be jacking, keeping that body fat on basically, and could be zapping your workouts too, to be quite honest. I mean, I think Todd, not to call you out, but I think we've talked about that. When you feel stressed, your workout results go down, and that's a real thing. If you're not balanced in the other areas of your life and you come into a high intensity workout, you will be zapped from the word go, and all of a sudden 10 burpees that normally seem easy peasy all of a sudden feel like shit. Or you only got 5.5 hours of sleep instead of your normal 7.5 hours, and those 10 burpees feel like shit. Or you've been fasting this crazy schedule for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years straight, your workout results will start to go down. Okay. Let's see. Let's get to Ken's. Oh, Ken, great question. Appropriately lifting weights, getting into the post 70s age range, this is the time when it's even more crucial. Okay. And I mean that wholeheartedly, but it does look different. Okay. I always say this too. Fitness looks different every single moment, decade, year of your life. It's going to look different. Okay. What you did last year, which is why I always kind of, I hate when people bring up oh, I used to be able to do this, or I used to be able to do that. Dude, that's dead and gone. It's about what you're needing to do and wanting to do for your results right now. So you kind of have to leave that behind, which is really hard to do from an ego standpoint. But so let's just say you're really used to lifting a whole bunch of weights. You're maybe not going to need to do that, or even be able to do that safely into your older years. But lifting weights in general, whatever that looks like, and doing it consistently. I would say consistency is going to be the key. This goes back to the bone density, increasing muscle mass. Consistency, not excessiveness, okay? So not adding more workouts, but just being consistent with exposing yourself to loading weights onto your body, okay, in a safe, controlled manner, right? Which is just lifting weights. So yeah, usually as you age, the frequency actually needs to go down, to be quite honest. It usually needs to go down for most people. And so that doesn't necessarily mean you're not doing anything. So you could still work out 7 days a week, but the intensity factor will need to go down for 4 of those workouts, maybe even 5. And then the other 2 can be intense. So you could still, let's say, come to my workouts and be like, I'm going to do scale today. I'm going to scale it all the way down. Great. You're still doing something. You're still working your body. You're still using your muscles and your mind, which is one of the biggest things as you get older, is preventing Alzheimer's, dementia, all those kind of things. And, keeping those synapses firing. Also, the community factor is a big deal of that. So just talking to people, that's a whole other subject. So, but yes, engaging in regular activity is a huge, huge thing that can help, but the appropriate amount of weight, it really just depends on you and what you feel confident in doing. So I would say when you get older, it should never be about maxing out. It should be, I can do 3 reps of this deadlift weight really confidently. Yes, it was challenging, but I never wavered on my form, and I never felt like my back was in jeopardy, or you know what I mean? Like it should be something that you're always confident with, and that you know you can engage your muscles correctly with. And yeah. So that's the thing. I think people we're all creatures of it's got to be all or nothing. Or if I feel broken, I want to take it all the way off. Or if I feel like fat, I want to take it all the way up. It does not have to be that way. In fact, balance for all these things, all these questions, quite honestly, balance usually tends to be the thing. So always clean eating. So going all the way back to Jesse's question, always clean eating and always getting 1,200 calories might not be the best thing. Sometimes you need a 2,000 calorie day just to jack it up and get that extra calories in. And to help positively affect, because honestly, your thyroid, your hormone balance can get really whacked if you're constantly doing a certain diet. So flexible dieting is a real thing. You don't want to be going to Mod Pizza 3 times a week, but every once in a while, it can actually be a beneficial thing to your body. Now, that is if you're eating nothing but chicken salads. Chicken breast on salad the rest of the time. I'm talking about really clean eating the rest of the time. Okay, let's go back to Robin real quick. Ken, I hope that answered your question. I love the chat on the side, guys. Keep it going. That's fun stuff. Okay, what exercises strengthen the heart and lungs? I love this question. I hate to say this, but this is it's a great question, but it also made me laugh because it's every single thing we do strengthens the heart and the lungs. But to be more scientific around it, basically anything that strengthens the arterial walls of your heart will basically do that. So cardio, breathing. Okay, there's actually some evidence to show that even deep meditative breathing things can actually help the lungs. And there's even been tons of evidence that COVID patients have been treated with breathing exercises just to help them get through those kind of tight breathing things. So breathing exercises can actually be a big benefit, and it's free and it's easy and it takes 10 minutes a day. So why not do it? And plus it'll make you hate the world a little less. So it's all great. Does everyone find this? I cannot see you, I promise. But yeah, everything we do strengthens the heart and lungs. But so that's why one of the reasons I've been doing a lot of these, every 2 minutes or every 4 minutes or every 5 minutes, do this amount of work. It's meant to get you to kind of push that limit of your lungs and heart kind of output, and then to take it back down. And this is why I constantly am kind of coaching you guys through the breathing time, the medium breaths in and out through the nose. How you recover is how you train your heart and lungs. So if you just hit it balls to the wall, and then the rest of the time, you're not actually training yourself. You're just at the whim of whatever, nervous breakdown you're having. Okay. So how you recover starts in the workout, like I said last time, and is how you train your heart and lungs. Okay. Walking, like we're doing this month of August, is another phenomenal way to train your cardiovascular system. Even just a nice, gentle, brisk walk for a couple of miles can make all the difference in the world in training your body on how to breathe and getting in, and thinking about that oxygen in your body and all those kind of things. Is there such thing as too much or too little exercise? The obvious answer is yes. This is another Robin question. Yes, Tammy, I did already answer that question. The answer is no. You cannot gain significant amounts of strength. You can get by in a calorie deficit for a while and still feel like you're doing well in the gym. You will hit a wall. I've seen it happen to tons of people. It generally will happen with people who are bodybuilders because they're constantly cutting all sorts of crazy amounts of macros and calories out of their diet. And then all of a sudden one day they walk in, they have this blank, distant stare in their eyes, and they look pale because they can barely stand up straight. So yeah, no, being in a calorie deficit, I'm sorry, that is not a good thing. Okay. Human beings would not be here if we were good. If we were no, I should say we are actually good at being in a calorie deficit, which is how we're here. But if we were just constantly striving to be in a calorie deficit, we wouldn't even be alive. We wouldn't have these humongous brains in our skulls. Okay. I wouldn't be able to talk to you right now. Calories are a good thing. It just depends where they're coming from and just how much you need. Okay. And it depends on, this is another reason why calories in, calories out is complete bullshit, because we're doing just by me waving my arms like this, I didn't do that yesterday. So I'm now burning a totally different amount of calories than I did yesterday. It's complete nonsense. Anyway. Okay. But yeah, so too much exercise, I think is going to be more the concern than too little for anyone in this group. However, again, you have to be kind of the pilot and the control seat of like, you know what, I have nagging injuries. I'm having trouble sleeping. I feel irritable. I'm losing weight or gaining weight. I feel like my muscle mass is changing for the better or for the worse, rather. Sorry. So those things are alarms to say that you're over exercising. Does not mean don't show up to the workout. It just means like, hey, Eric, I'm going to take it easy today. I'm going to do this and this and this. What do you think? Great. How about you throw in this and this? Awesome. Cheer on the rest of the people. Okay. There's always something you should be doing to better yourself in terms of the exercise portion. It just might look like foam rolling for 30 minutes that day. I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But it's some days that's what you need, but you still have to show up and do it. I think a lot of times we kind of use this whole over exercising thing as an excuse to not show up. And I've seen that quite honestly, and it's not ever the thing. It's mostly an under recovery issue, not an over exercising issue. And under recovery means like admitting like, you know what, maybe today I shouldn't be doing a bunch of snatches and thrusters. I need to just take a day to do some other stuff. That's totally fine. Too little exercise. Yeah. I mean, obviously that's too little exercise is obviously a huge issue. I mean, that's one of the things that's plaguing this entire world is that people are sitting way too much. They have spinal issues. I think that's another thing we don't talk about enough is a lot of these spine and hip issues are actually when people pop hips, break hips, I fell and broke my hips, I broke my coccyx, whatever. A lot of these things are because these people are completely deconditioned, unconditioned people. They don't lift weights and they sit too much. And so people are kind of at the whim of this older age. So all of a sudden you're 55, 65, 75, and you have to use a cane or a walker for the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be that way, barring any kind of catastrophic event. It does not have to be that way. A lot of these issues tend to be chronic issues, not acute. So not people aren't just getting hit by buses all the time. They tend to be sitting for decades of their lives and not training and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, you're fine. No, it's totally fine. Yeah. Never hurts to clarify. So yeah, too little exercise. I mean, we all know what it feels like to take a couple days off. Yes, it might feel great at first, but then all of a sudden you're kind of like, you almost feel like achy for not working out. So I always say this, I'd rather be sore from working out than achy and broken feeling and sore from not working out and sitting on my butt all the time. So doing a little something every single day can be really beneficial. So consistency, especially as you get older, consistency is key for joint and arthritis related pain can be really, really key. Keeping moving basically is one of the biggest things you can do for your heart health, for your liver, for your lungs, for your brain. Keeping moving, okay? Your brain literally, I've said this to people before and they push back on this, but I will still defend this. Your brain is literally designed to move your body, okay? Like this, I mean, its primary goal basically is to, its first purpose was to move our body so that we could exist, okay? Yes, gardening is a workout. It's also one of the most dangerous things. I'd say 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, people who get injured and come into me and like, man, I'm really hurting today. It's gardening. I lifted a weird rock or like John threw out his back the other day. Sorry, John, to call you out if you're listening. Shoveling. I mean, I guarantee you that's when people hurt themselves is always in the garden. It's because it's almost unavoidable, but people don't warm up for it. They don't think about it. They don't take breaks. They just huff and puff and do all the work that they need to do. And all of a sudden they sit down at the end of the day and they're like, holy shit, my back hurts. Well, no shit. You were just doing this excessive repetitive motion under load and all that kind of shit. Yes, it is. No, it is definitely a workout, of course. But it's one of the most dangerous ways. That's people always talk to me about gym safety and exercise safety and all these kind of things. Everyone I see getting injured is getting injured in the garden. I swear to God. So be careful. Yeah, but the symptoms, I think I went over the symptoms of too much exercise for sure. And then the symptoms of too low can actually be low energy. So exercise does lots of awesome things in your brain. This is another thing we don't talk about enough, man. It's like all the cool physiology that happens and the chemistry that happens in your brain from exercise is just absolutely phenomenal. They've done studies that it can combat depression and all these kind of things. And again, like I said earlier, like dementia and Alzheimer's, exercise can combat those things. Okay. So if your body's not moving, your brain has less purpose, i.e. you move less, hurt more, ooh, I'm saying this really in a concise way. Yay. Okay. So don't do that. And your brain like literally shrivels and you have those gray spots and all of a sudden you're having the same conversation 3 times in a row. Don't do that. Yeah, Robin, actually, I do want to say a specific thing. You had a question earlier about, yeah. No, Larry Bird would have had way more of a career if he was playing in this day and age. Because back in the day, they just played. They didn't do conditioning and strength training like they do today. So Larry Bird, absolutely, if he did better strength training, he would have had a longer career. I absolutely believe that. I was thinking that today when I heard somebody talk about Larry Bird. Robin, I'm going to give you my suggestion for the best exercise for back and abs. You asked this question, is the bent over row. And specifically like a standard bent over row when you're in a deep hinge position. Because every time you hinge, to actually get a good lumbar curve, you have to engage your entire core set of muscles. So bent over rows are phenomenal for stabilization of your abs and then strengthening of those spine muscles, traps, your lats, all those upper back muscles and mid back muscles. So yeah, absolutely, I would say bent over rows. So this is something, again, that's a great point. You could, on your own, add in as a warm-up light bent over rows to help get your back warm and strong before we even do a workout. And if you're doing it on a consistent basis 2 to 3 times a week, you can actually see some strength improvements in both your core and your back. So there you go. Oh yeah, Ken also asked for a stress test for seniors. I mean, yes, you definitely want to be as you get older, you want to be aware as much as possible. I mean, there are a couple of things that doctors can do, and even myself as a personal trainer can do if we're in person to kind of see where you're at in terms of recovery and conditioning and things like that, how your heart and your lungs are functioning. So yeah, I would say anything within reason that you can do to keep an eye on that, I think is beneficial. I'm never going to say more knowledge is a bad thing. So do, side plank pulses? Oh yeah, side plank pulses. Yeah, for sure. I mean, anything you're doing with a plank is going to be abs and back for sure. But yes, I would definitely recommend some sort of stress test. You can also there's also a lot of things, guys, you can do at home. Step tests. There's a couple of things, and I can send these out that you can actually do on your own to kind of see where your recovery and your conditioning is at. And it's not just about hitting 20 burpees and calling it good. So there's actually a lot of things you can do to kind of test and see, heart rate tests and things like that. So I think we're getting close, guys. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to put them in the box. I think that was actually, Todd asked about ankle mobility. So Todd, what I'll say about that is, all the exercises to do. It's going to come down to consistency. And so making it a point every single day to take 5 to 10 minutes to doing those exercises on a consistent basis is going to help with that over time. I think that's another thing too, when it comes to things like squats, is doing them repeatedly is practice really does make perfect in that sense. So your body will remember. I mean, this is one thing that really stood out to me in my CrossFit level 1 training was we were doing squats and I was like, man, I kind of made a comment I haven't warmed up yet. And they're like, dude, you're doing the warm up right now. And we were already holding air squats and overhead PVC squats and all this shit. And I mean, they're right in the sense that the warm up can sometimes just be doing the movements, which is sometimes when we do our online workouts, guys, I'll just have you hit some Turkish get-ups with no weight and some air squats. I mean, sometimes just going through the motion can be the best warm up. It doesn't always have to be the same 10 stretches that you do and the same, blah, blah, blah. Those are great too, but it doesn't always have to be that way. So consistency is going to be really, really key in terms of improving any kind of mobility. So for me personally, I'm going to take this down to the ground. We're going to go down to the floor. When I first started doing squat challenges and stuff, I did the 10-minute squat challenge. And I remember sitting down in a squat. See, right now I'm not even warm. I'm already feeling my lower back kind of get rounded and stuff and pop. But I'm still able to sit in a squat. That took years of effort and training. When I first did the 10-minute squat challenge, I sat down for about that long, and my calves and ankles and all my smaller kind of tibia muscles and stuff like that were just on fire. So, and to the point where I literally couldn't sit in a squat for more than 15 seconds, 10 seconds at a time. It was crazy. And then a couple years back at Crunch, I used to sit and I would just sit in the grass during my breaks and just sit in a squat with no shoes on. And then finally I did a 10-minute squat and just did it all in a row and didn't have to break once. So, I mean, it just, you know, if you have specific goals, whether it's alleviating pain, fixing certain issues, mobility or flexibility wise, it really just takes it on you to either ask me the questions to know what exactly you should be doing, but then do them consistently. Like if you constantly, like I have a client who will remain nameless, it's not anybody on this call, who constantly has a bad back. And it really takes a lot of prevention, because once the back spasm or back outage happens, you then have to kind of go on the defense and just kind of like, okay, let's just take it down a notch. Let's do all this and this and this. But prevention is so key in these things. And this goes for everybody, especially as you get older. When you are getting older and you have an injury, it'll take way longer for you to recover. It'll be much harder to get back to normal. So prevention is so key, guys. So I can't stress this enough. Doing a little something every single day. You guys all know what like restrictions you have. You know, you might be working with another trainer. You might be doing online workouts with somebody else. I don't know. Like whatever your program is you're doing, like make sure you're doing the right things to actually achieve the goals that you have, like, and address the issues that you have. If you constantly are feeling pain in a certain place or restriction in a certain place, address that thing. And maybe, like I said earlier, change something. So like if you're constantly doing the same hamstring stretches and guess what, your hamstrings are always tight, maybe they're not working. Okay. So try something different. Go online. Squat University is a phenomenal resource. Hopefully I can be a decent resource, but again, like I'm not the best of the best. Like there's tons of people who are way smarter than me. I just answer the questions in the way that I know how best. And again, I love debate and I love learning things, but there's so many good resources out there. Like Tammy said, the GoWOD mobility app. Absolutely. Like have a little app that helps you with your mobility on a day in and day out basis. Yeah, you could totally utilize, there's so much good technology out there. You have to utilize it though. And that's the problem, right? So I think, I mean, you know, I think a lot of times we can maybe overutilize the technology, but I think more often than not, we have all these good intentions, we download the app and then we never use it. So you utilize those things to make it, you know, and again, if you download the app and use it for 30 days and it doesn't do shit, well, then maybe try something different. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to get locked into like all of a sudden using something. Resurrected. Yeah. Great questions today, guys. Hopefully I answered everything. I think that was it. All right. Well then, let's see. Did I get it all? Yes. Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for watching. I will see you guys soon and have a good night. Bye.